Welcome. I'm Janelle Kolaski, a career mindset coach and actor.
And I'm Amanda Dubois, a self-authenticity and prosperity life coach and actor as well. And we're your co-host of Mindset Artistry YouTube channel,
where we teach you the art of discovering and using your mindset
to build a career and life you desire.
Welcome to Mindset Artistry podcast, and we have an incredible episode for you today with the incredible guest, Erica Hart. Woo, woo, woo. Cheers for all that. Yes, pieces and all that. Who also, might I say, has the dopest sneaker game that I know, because I've been seeing your sneaker game and I'm a fan. My feet are a little too big sometimes and they don't look quite nice on me, but I'll take it. So yes, for all those, Erica is an amazing casting director. And so we're just going to dive into the conversations and be candid as possible about the industry, about actors, about the importance of mindset, joy, and let's see where this conversation takes us. So let's start here. Erica, I know you didn't want to become a casting director. You said, I've seen in many interviews that you kind of fell into it, but you still wanted to be in the industry. Tell me about discovering being a casting director in the midst of being a dancer and attending NYU Tisch, and how it has brought you to this stage in your life right now.
Yeah, and thank you, Amanda and Janelle, for having me on this podcast today. I didn't know what a casting director was, let alone knew the term casting director. So I went to NYU for film school, and I went in thinking I was going to be a director. And all of this happened, this whole story that I'm going to tell you happened between maybe 6 weeks. It was freshman year, 18 years old, moving from DC to New York, trying to be a filmmaker in New York. And I thought I was going to be a director, and they kind of scare you out of it. It's kind of like, look to your left, look to your right, only one's going to make it kind of deal. So I was like, okay, that's not going to happen. And then I was like, well, I like to edit. Maybe I'll be an editor. And the thought of me in a room by myself with no windows just didn't vibe with me either. And quickly after that, a classmate of mine wanted to make a film outside of the curriculum. And she was very adamant that everyone had their own specific jobs and they only did that specific job. So she was the director and she only directed. The writers only wrote, the producers only produced. And we printed out a crew list, a crew sheet. We didn't know what all it took to take a film. And the second or third to last thing was casting director. And because I had a film background, I was like, well, I've been to auditions before, so I think I can do this random thing. And that random thing became the thing that I did in college. And NYU, like a lot of schools, regardless of what you major in, is very competitive. And so people were trying to be the best director, the best writer, the best producer. And I was in the corner doing that thing. And that thing was casting. And everybody was like, oh, you did that thing for that film. Can you do that thing for my film? And I had a monopoly going. So I did all of that through college. And my senior year, I cast 20 thesis films, which I don't recommend anybody doing. But it gave me a great foundation. And my senior year, I interned at NBC Casting and then just worked. And here I am.
Well, that's incredible for all those people out there who are afraid of taking a leap or trying something new. It's just a little not slight, but a big encouragement to just be open to where this industry or career takes you, because you never know what you'll learn and who you'll meet and how it's going to feed your art. And so, right, exactly. And, how has being a dancer served you as a casting director? Because I know when I first started this industry, I was kind of drilled or scared into just be an actor and don't do anything else. Don't go on vacation. You have to be available 24/7 or else you're going to lose out on opportunities and never get them again. Casting's going to hate you. All the things put so much fear in me that I developed an anxiety because I got to be here. No, I can't have fun. I can't do this. I got to put my head in the books or just practicing and working on sides and getting all my materials together. And then I lost a bit of the joy. And so how has, bringing that back, how has dancing and just being a creative being fed your career as a casting director and beyond? Because you are a producer and doing all these amazing things.
Yeah, my dad always says there are two types of people. There's someone who knows a little bit about a lot and someone who knows a lot about a little. And I see myself as someone who knows a little bit about a lot. And so I always tell actors that we are as artists, as creatives, we have these things called toolboxes. And I actually was right before this watching a interview with Wendell Pierce from Death of a Salesman. And he was talking about how a lot of the acting coaches and the acting teachers he's had has given him bricks. And some bricks you hold, you find the weight, and you like maybe not that, but the bricks that you have, you build your house with. And so I see that again with the toolbox. And me being a dancer, me being a producer, me being a writer only helps me as a casting director, bare bones, just being empathetic. Right. So like, I know what it feels like to walk into an audition. I know what it feels like to walk into a class. I know what it feels like to have a table with people looking at you. You know, I know what it feels like to be a writer in a room by themselves, just writing for what? You know, just for yourself. Maybe you'll buy it, maybe you'll sell it, maybe not. So it's the empathetic situation, but also the understanding of like the time it takes to put into this, to put into the art, and the love it takes, you know, to put into this. And I always thank Nikki Gambier, who was my artistic director in high school. I danced in a pre-professional company named Urban Impact, and I gave the worst audition at like worst, terrible audition. I was a junior in high school. Like it was the worst audition, but she saw something in me and she gave me a chance and she gave me an opportunity. And I don't think if I wasn't in that pre-professional company that I would think, oh, I can do this thing called casting. So honestly, from jump, I don't think I would be a casting director if I was a dancer, because again, I thought, oh, well, I had been to an audition before. I have been auditioning since, you know, I was 4. I know what that looks like, so I can do this thing.
That's
I
incredible.
love that. And what advice do you have for actors? Because I mean, Amanda and I both know, especially when we were first starting out, it's very nerve-wracking going into the audition room because we're like, oh, we have to, you know, we've changed now. But in the beginning, I was like, I have to do it right. I don't want to upset anybody. I have to be the right one, because you do want to work and you want to do what you love. And we are all finding ways to do that in multiple ways now. But I don't know. Our friend that we interviewed, Mel Mack, she always says, just like make it like a fan in the room. Like you don't have to book the job, just like book the room and be yourself. And I don't know, what advice do you have for actors about all of that and our fears? We're so afraid of casting.
I know, and so bad because I feel like there was one casting director who like treated someone terribly, and like now we are the villains of the stories, you know? I get it. There are bad people everywhere, you know, but just realize that, like Mel said, when you walk into that room, regardless if there's one person in the room or 10 people or 25, because sometimes you're in that room and there are 25 people and you're like, what in the heck am I going to do here? But realize every time you enter a room, every time you send a self-tape, every time you go to an EPA, whatever you go into or send to, that person wants you to do great. Because if you do great, you book it, or even if you don't book it, you make them look good, right? So you have the casting director who is the sweetest person in the world versus the other casting director who might not be the sweetest person in the world. Wherever they are on that spectrum, they want you to do well. They don't want to deal with this role anymore. You know what I mean? It's sort of just like, okay, we done. Regardless if you're working on it for a day or 20 days, like, come on, please come in and do it, because then I don't have to do it anymore. You know, so please, please, please just know that everybody in that room is on your side. Realize that you hold the power in that room. I know there's a lot of question about like who holds the power, blah, blah, blah. Realizing that you as the actor hold that power. You, your choices, your decisions, your instincts, everything that makes you, your personality decides how that room is going to adjust you, decides how that room's energy is going to go, decides how that just room is just going to go in general. So I know there's a lot of thought of like the power is behind the table. No, the power is in front of the table, right? Like you all bring those choices, you all bring that excitement, and realizing that this is probably the first time that these creatives are hearing their words in an unbiased way, right? So like when I say unbiased, they don't know you, you don't know them. They might have had a table read with their best friends, but their best friends know them. They know their voice, they know their cadence, they know their rhythm, they know their style, right? You coming in, having read the script for the first time, you're coming in an unbiased way. And so when people say make big, bold choices, choices mean your opinion, your point of view. So that is the first time them seeing it. So we see this all the time. multiple times during a project where a role that was once written one way gets turned another way because they finally see it in a different way with actors coming in with their choices. The words don't change, obviously, but the choices change. So now it's like, oh, maybe that 20-year-old ingenue is now a 50-year-old man. So like, just realize, that's why I say that you all hold the power, because you guys conduct and show these creatives, these casting directors, these producers, these showrunners, these music directors, these choreographers, whatever they might be, you show them their piece, you show them their work. And sometimes, a lot of the times, it excites them even more to be like, oh my God, this is what I wrote. Or, oh my God, I didn't even know that that could happen with my work, So just go in, do a great job. Like you said, you might not book the job, but you could book the room, realizing there's so many victories along the way that you might not even realize. You coming in for the same casting director over and over again, that's a victory. You going along the journey of, coming in, getting a call back, getting a producer session, getting a this, getting a that, those are victories. All of those are things that are along the way of this journey, this long train ride into that. And I understand, like, booking, that's the pinnacle, right? Like, that's the apex. That's what we want. It pays the bills. It gives you footage for your reel. It gives you a credit, et cetera, et cetera. But there's so many journeys along the way that I think people just throw to the wayside and people just take for granted. We get thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of submissions for one line. I did a short film out in LA, and I was looking for a college student with 2 lines, and I got 2,500 submissions. Like, no joke. Wow. And so I'm not bringing in 2,500 people. I'm bringing in a very small fraction of those people. So regardless if you get an audition for a short film, a student film, a feature film, a series regular, whatever it may be, you are in a very small percentage of the people who were submitted. And you're giving that opportunity that other people are not being given. So just realize that, again, just getting one audition is a victory, because, again, there are thousands upon thousands of people that opportunity could have been given to, but they're giving it to you for some reason. Now, you might be like, why are they giving this to me? Now, you might be like, well, it doesn't hit me morally. Maybe it's something that you don't believe in, or something, that you won't do. That's totally fine. Pass. But if you're thinking, why would they give this to me? Don't worry about that. They're giving you an opportunity. They have their own reason for giving this to you. And maybe that's a conversation you have with your rep, or even with the casting director. But if there's something that you're curious about, if you're afraid of failing, if you're nervous for failing, lean into that, because I think then that's probably the reason why to do it.
Wow, I love that.
Yes.
Gems, bricks, all of that, right? That was incredible. I think you've kind of answered a lot of the questions that were ruminating in my mind about just the process, and to elaborate on the process. And thank you for sharing that. So I think as actors, we have this hope and this also sometimes desperation of, we got to book the job, otherwise we're never coming back in the room. We're never going to be seen. My career is never going to happen. There's a time limit on everything. And I think there's just so much pressure that we put on ourselves as creatives, as actors, as storytellers and performers, that sometimes we just focus back to the work, focus back to the joy, which is why we have created this mindset artistry, is that the importance of centering yourself, grounding yourself, using your anxiety and your fear within the audition room or the self-tape. And so I want to ask, because you spoke briefly to this, how important is the character breakdown and parentheticals within the sides or scenes that you're given? Because I've heard a few times where a casting assistant is doing the breakdown, so they're just kind of quickly putting it together and then posting it so we can get actors to, apply for the job, to get to the job. So how important is it for actors to pay attention to the breakdowns and also the parentheticals within the scene where we're asking, or they're saying she's crying at this particular moment, or they bang on the desk, or they, how important are those things within your self-tape and your audition?
I'm going to talk on both sides of my mouth, because the beauty and the beast of this business is there's no right way, right? There's no equation. If there was a right way, hopefully someone would have written a book. Hopefully that person would have been me, and I would have been on an undisclosed island and nobody would be able to find me, because I would just be rich. But I think the thing about it is you have to be smart. right? So the thing about the breakdown is it answers a lot of questions that you might have. People wrote it for a reason, right? So like if it says 30s female goth, I wouldn't come in looking like a cheerleader, like that's one thing, right? But sometimes words are broad, like witty, that means, that could mean that they're funny. It could mean that they're smart. It could mean that they're a smart aleck. Like, there's some words that have broad definitions. And so I think the name of the game, I think the thing to think about is if I'm going in for the role of Alex, it's not what would Alex do? Because I think, Janelle, what you were talking about is like, what do they want? What do they want? They don't know what they want. Right? They don't, because if they did, casting would take 2 seconds. Literally, casting would take 2 seconds if they knew what they wanted. But we have a process for a reason. And so if you're going in for the role of Alex, it's not what would Alex do, because they don't know. It's what I would do as Alex, right? So if it's like Alex, 30s, smart, with a sense of humor, down to earth, like what do those words mean? I don't know, but I know my sense of humor as Erica. I know what Erica means to be smart, like what does that do so that I can sit in this character and show it in a truth and honest way. So I think back to your question about the screen directions or the parentheticals and stuff like that. Number one, I always say is like, is it in the dialogue as well? So if it's like she bangs her hand on the desk, does that make is that something in the dialogue? Usually, if there's something sound, that means it's a change of shift in the scene, that's usually what that means. She wells up and cries. Most of the time, sometimes I get auditions that people well up and cry. Sometimes it's more something. If someone holds it in, it's like, are they going to cry? Are they going to cry? Are they going to cry? But again, that's fitting that piece to you. Sometimes you get something and it's like, you know what? I think I would chuckle at this moment and chuckle at that moment because that's true for you. Now, don't do the complete opposite of what you read. Just be like, yo, I'm going to shock them to death. Like, I'm going to do this thing. They will see it coming. Watch me, watch out. And it's like, no, don't do that because I don't want to be shocked. And we can smell a phony a mile away. But if it's true to you, whatever it is in that moment, and that's the beauty of acting, regardless if you book the job, regardless if you do 2 takes of an audition, regardless of what it is, you will never get the 2 takes, like same takes. 2 takes are never the same, right? So you might feel bubbling it up and you might cry in the first take and it might not happen in the second take, but that second take might be as dynamic as that first take or even more. You know what I mean? So I think that's where the script analysis comes from. I think that's where the preparation comes from. I think that's with like just sitting and actually preparing for that piece comes from. So I think taking that agency, taking that power back and figuring out how it fits for you. Again, you're being given this opportunity for a reason. And if you're like, well, Erica, I don't know if I have a sense of humor. Okay, maybe you are not the stand-up comedian, but there's something about you that's funny. There's something about you that makes me chuckle. There's something about you that has a quirk to you, that maybe fits in this sense of funny, right? So just, realizing that the jeans fit best on some people than it does somebody else, but you're giving the opportunity to try on the jeans. So try on the jeans.
I love that. Try on the jeans.
Right. I was going to say, it reminded me of the traveling, the girls traveling pants or something, right?
I just watched, went down memory lane for some reason. I don't know, a month ago, oddly, and saw half that movie and I was like, oh my God. I was going to say, it just makes me think, Amanda and I, we both study with Anthony Abeson and he's this older teacher and he's always like, oh, why don't you guys just have fun and just be yourselves and you're interesting enough. He would smack me if he loves that we make fun of him, but it's so helpful. So we appreciate that you're telling us this because my next question was really going to be about the self-tape world because although self-tapes have existed for a long time, long time,
guys. This is not a new thing. Lord, when I started this business, we were getting self-tapes. And before that,
and I bet everybody gets over being sent in. not even
Yes.
like via a computer, like dropping them off and going here.
DVDs. Who remembers those?
Yeah, yeah. It was, I mean, there's so much anxiety about it now. And I mean, luckily, I don't know, I was helping a friend years ago, so I was like, ooh, I knew they were a thing. But some people are like, well, I don't know, because now that I'm not in the room and they're just seeing my tape, they're not really getting like my true vibe or personality or something like, oh, I had to be in the room to give them my charisma. I don't know about, I'm grateful to have booked some self tapes. So clearly it's working. Maybe it's better.
I think.
Behind.
Oh, I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No,
No,
yeah.
but I think like self tapes have been along for a long time, and I think the thing that people might not remember, or maybe they do remember, and they're willing and they're choosing to forget. But yes, you're coming into us, right? You're coming in for the casting directors. Whatever connection y'all are having in these rooms, like go ahead, like okay. But you know, hey, how's it going? Good, nice to see you. Great, like you ready? Good, like okay. But the truth of the matter is, you guys come in, you do great work, and then if you're on the link, the powers that be are watching your tape. Like you're coming in to be put on tape, and like yes, we are giving you adjustments. You know, we might be encouraging you, like. Yes, I understand that's missing 100%. But just realizing that like this taping part and the people watching the tape part, that has been around for a while, right? And so like the showrunners are watching your tapes, the execs are watching your tapes, the powers that be have always been watching your tapes. And so if it does not come across on your tape, they're not going to see that, right? So I think that's the part that's missing, is like there was always the missing connection. There was always that moment of like the director, the showrunner who's not in the room being like, oh, there, right? And I always liken it to life. Like there is this human experience that I feel like is missing from our brains. Like when we go to a dinner party, right? You might only know the host, but you decide to go just to be social. And someone who you don't know, a stranger, comes up and talks to you. And in the first 10 seconds, you know how this conversation is going to go. In the first 10 seconds, it's either, oh my God, this person is a cool person, let's keep talking. Or I want to get out of this conversation. Or the next 10 seconds, how do you redeem yourself? How do you redeem yourself? How do you redeem yourself? And then how do I get out of this conversation? Same thing happens here. Like we have to fall in love with you in the first 10 seconds. It's the thing that we can't explain. It's the innate quality. It's the charisma. It's the charismatic. It's whatever that is. And sometimes it's not even vocal. It's like, well, Erica, I don't have the first line. How are you going to fall in love with me? How do you listen? How are you digesting that information? Why are you holding your head to the left? Why are you holding your head to the right? Why are you leaning in? Why are you leaning back? All of the things that make film and TV are the things that excite me. I love when I am very invested in how people listen. I love stillness. I love movement. I love just watching that happen, because I think people forget that body language is a language that is being used, and so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But again, your choices, your opinions are your opinions. Those are the things that shine through your self-tape. And you're like, well, Erica, I don't have the best backdrop. Erica, I don't have the best camera. Erica, I don't have the best sound. I don't care. There are a lot of self-tapes that people are booking that are literally, I'm like, are you in a cave? But it comes through. You know what I mean? It comes through. Now, I'm not saying to go film your self-tape in a cave. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, don't feel like, oh, I don't have this DSLR camera. Oh, I don't have this fancy backdrop. Oh, I don't have this fancy lav mic. Blah, blah, blah. Why are you making excuses? Just do the thing. Like, what is it? The craftsman is not as good as their tool, whatever that phrase is. It's like you're blaming the technology, you're blaming the equipment. Just do the thing. The rest will come. Again, you've been given this opportunity, to do what you love. So let's see it. And like you said, don't make it so precious. Maybe if you have time, set up your room, step out for 10 minutes, go back, set a timer for 30 minutes, do the scene for 30 minutes, and call it a day. There's no reason why you should be doing a self-tape for 2 hours, because guess what? If you get booked, you ain't gonna have 2 hours to do that scene. You know what I mean? So that's other things to think about. Holding on to something, just let it go. Let it go. And I think what you were talking about, joy, leaning into joy, it's like, this is you get to act. And I know it's annoying. I know it's annoying because you got the sirens going off, got the dogs barking, got where is this random alarm coming from downstairs? Where did that come from? It's a lot of stuff happening, but you've been giving this opportunity. So just try to have fun. And like Anthony Abe said, have fun. Show them who you are. There are 8 billion people on this planet. At the end of the day, they're going to pick one person to do this job. So why not show them what makes you you? Why not show them why you chose to do this as a career? Why not show them why that you are the best person for this job?
Well, damn. Were you in my room this morning? Because I think you just said everything that I've said to myself this morning in the mirror. I was like, I am doing this. Like all the affirmations that I say in the morning. I think my mirror is probably tired of seeing me because I am obsessively like, we're doing this. You're good. Affirmations all day, every day. I love that you dropped so many gems of having fun, letting go, really tapping into your authenticity, like being bold and make those choices. I think sometimes, again, as Janelle said, as actors, we want to make the right choices, whatever the heck that actually means. Like, what are the right choices? Like, what I do, Janelle cannot do, or even you can do, and that's the beauty about being an artist and a performer and a storyteller. We're never going to do it the same, which is why they pick one person to do it, because they're bringing the story and character to life. And so I love that. And I am curious, you talked about, getting 2 takes and like giving yourself a time limit, stepping away from your setup, because as actors, we're especially doing self-tapes, we're directors, we're producers, we're sound mixers, we're all that in one, and we can get overwhelmed and like end up stepping away from the art of performing the scene or doing the scene. And so how important is it, and I've heard it a few times, for an actor to provide 2 different contrasting takes for that one role, whether it's a one-liner, a co-star, recurring, or any level that we're auditioning for?
I think the word you used was contrasting, right? So I would say for the one-liners, even like, maybe smaller scenes, I'm totally, one-liners in particular, I'm fine with 3, right? Because like, can I take your order? That can be done. And in some of my workshops, I do a class that's just with one-liners, because it's like, is it at the top of your shift? It's at the bottom of your shift. Did you have a rough night last night? Are you having a date tonight? Like all of that comes into, can I take your order? Right. So I'm totally fine with 3 different ways of doing that, sending in 3 different ways. But again, contrasting different. That does not mean, oh, well, I said one take is 5 seconds. This take is 4 seconds. That's not different. That's not different. Difference comes from tone. It comes from relationship. It comes from motivation. So me talking to my best friend is going to be different than me talking to an ex. Me talking to my mom might be different than me talking to a teacher. Right? So those are different takes. So I think, when you get to the bigger scenes, I probably wouldn't send in 2 takes for a 14-page scene, but maybe, 2 takes for a 5-page scene or something like that, especially again, if they're different. I think another difference is, let's say that you are not from the United States of America and your natural accent is South African or British or, whatever your natural accent might be. And for whatever reason, why can't the doctor be South African? Why can't the lawyer be from Denmark? Like, why can't it be, unless it's like the Untitled Minnesota Project pilot? Why can't this person have a different accent? So I would do one in your natural accent and then one in your American accent, whatever that means, because those are 2 different takes, and it's like, oh my God, I did not know that. But, I wouldn't say like, well, I do a bomb British accent. I wouldn't necessarily do that. I would just do it if like your natural accent is from somewhere else, because again, those are 2 different accents, and it could, again, that's something that is very uniquely you. And might something come out differently. So yeah, I would totally be fine with that. Don't go overboard. Follow the directions. There might be, directions that say only send in 1 take, follow those directions. There might be directions that say, please send in 2 takes. I do know casting directors that do put that in their directions. But regardless of the directions, maybe we'll get into this later, but regardless of the directions, follow them. If there's a way that this person wants you to slate, follow them. If there's a way that they want you to rename your file, follow them, because at the end of the day, when you book it, you will be on set and you will be following directions. So there is a level of professionalism that does go into the brain when it's like, I thought I put these in the directions. Oh, I did put them in the directions. Why isn't it like this then? And it might get a little scary being like, especially since we are not in the world of meeting people in person, if I don't know you, I'm like, well, if they can't follow these very simple directions, do I want to put them in a scene next to the lead where they might have 15 minutes to shoot the scene? You know, so little things that go a long way that you might not think are that important might cost you that opportunity down the line.
Yeah.
No, that's good to know, because I'm usually the one sweating over I'm like, underscore space. Okay. No, because I'll check it 5 times because of, but thank you so much for that. I was thinking about, so, I mean, Amanda and I talk about this all the time. Like, we tell people, like, on Mindset Artistry and anybody that we're coaching or fellow actors, like, I feel like if you really want to do something, then you just keep going for it. And I tell people, I'm like here for the long game, acting, because when you're like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? I mean, I know I really don't have control, and I'm grateful to have all these auditions and bookings along the way. But many people are like, well, how do I get more auditions? And I mean, Amanda and I are constantly working our craft. We go way back. We met, I don't even remember when now, but we were in a class, like a business acting class, and then we do scenes together and all this stuff. But I don't know if it's like, oh, I need better materials. Oh, I need a better rep that has better relationships, or people just don't need me for 6 months because I don't know. So I don't know if you have any advice for people on getting more auditions, or if they're not getting auditions, not to freak out.
I mean, especially now, like, you can't be freaking out now. We all in the same boat. It's a weird, funky boat. So, that's the name of the game at the moment. So I don't know, to be quite honest. I think when I get some questions, when you said, I love that you use the term long game. Because I think about the long game a lot. And I don't think I would be here if I thought about the short game. I think you have to think about the short game. There are going to be par 3s on that course for anybody who plays golf, but they're going to be par 5s too. Like, you got to know how to drive, and you got to know how to chip, and you got to know how to use your wedge. Sorry for this golf analogy. I don't know where that came from, but you got to have to do it all, right? And I think the long game, if you look at all the actors and artists, not just actors, but artists, film directors, TV directors, writers, actors, they just didn't show up one day, get off a bus and be like, I'm going to be an actor today. And then it happened, and I'm sorry if you thought that, like, you were going to wake up and go to school and get that degree, and the next thing you were going to win is an Academy Award. I don't know where that came from, and I'm sorry that someone told you that, but that's probably not going to happen. The work, though, will happen. Put in the work. Put in the things that make you. Realize, going to class, reading, going to plays, going to musicals, going to films, watching TV. All of that stuff is a part of the process. Talking to other actors, being in fellowship with other actors, creating a community with other actors, also writers, also costume designers, also grips, knowing what it means to make the thing, whether it is a musical, a play, a TV show, a film, whatever, a podcast, learning the craft, right? So that, again, there's just a level of understanding and empathy there, and then everything else will build. But I think I get a lot of questions about, like, what can I do to pop? Or, like, what can I do to book? Or what can I do to this? And I always get a little afraid for those questions, because I'm like, I don't know if you're in the right industry, to be quite honest. Because, again, the beauty and the beast of this industry is there are no right answers. There are no right choices. There are no right things. And that can be freeing and frustrating at the same time. If you're looking for a quick fix, if you're looking for a Band-Aid, this is the wrong business. There are no quick fixes. There are no Band-Aids. There are only choices. And if you make a right turn, That's not wrong. If you make a left turn, that's not wrong. It's just realizing what turn is best for you at that one moment in time. And there will be other moments in time and other moments in time. But realizing that if we're talking about joy, if we're talking about wellness, if we're talking about all of the things that make those things the things, just realizing that regardless if you are working or you're not working, if you are a famous actor or you're a not so famous actor, you're just starting out, you've been in this business for 20,000 years, there are going to be times where you're not acting, as we have seen from the time we are now. There are going to be times where I'm not casting. There are going to be times where I'm not writing. There are going to be times where I'm not creating. Same with you. So what makes you you when the curtain goes down? What makes you you when the camera stops rolling? What makes you you when you're just walking down the street with your headphones on? And can that fill your cup? Right? Because as we have seen in these last 62, 67, whatever days we are in, there's been a lot of downtime, and a lot of people being like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Now, not saying that that hasn't happened to all of us, of course, because we have to make a living. We have to pay our bills. We have to keep the thing going. But at the same time, what are your hobbies? How do you describe yourself without using the term actor? How do you just sit alone and reflect? How do you describe yourself as not saying a casting director? What makes you you if this goes all away? Because regardless of if you just started 15 years ago, 5 years ago, you had a whole life. There's so many people that don't know I was a dancer. There's so many people that don't know that I, directed films. There's so many people that don't know that because that was a different part of my life, but that's still a part of my life. So what makes you you? Do you love pottery? Good. Go take a pottery class. Do you love to dance? Great. Go take a dance class. Do you love to rock climb? Great. Go take a rock climbing class, or better yet, get out of the city and go climb some real rocks. Do things that fill your cup that are not acting. On the other side of my mouth, though, still keep working at your craft. Again, still keep going to shows if you can. Read things. Go to YouTube University, whatever it may be. Research, what are the shows that you see yourself on? Who cast those shows? Who are the associate casting directors? Who are the assistant casting directors? Whatever that might be, do that, but also do the thing that makes you you. Lean into your 7-year-old curiosity. My coach always says, lean into your childlike curiosity, whatever that may be, just get excited about what's out there. Go for a walk, go for a run, get on a bike, fall, get back up, whatever it may be, take a swim class, whatever that may be, just always stay curious because again, acting comes from life. And if you're not living, you're not acting. So what can we do to fill this time that is not surrounded by the industry, but surrounded by you? And what makes you feel joy and what makes you feel happiness.
Wow, that was incredible. I think everybody pay attention to what she said. Rewind it, because I think you're going to need to hear it again. How to find the joy, how to tap into who you are. And there's a balance that you have to be able to do in life, especially as a career, in all avenues of life. It's not just career and your personal life. It's finances, it's your personal growth, all these things. And it's important to be aware of who you are and what you're needing to fill your cup. Like you said, I love that. It's how are you filling your cup outside of the set, outside after the self-tape is done? Or you don't, I've heard you say let it go. And we always hear that as actors, let it go. Trust it. I think it's hard for us sometimes to let it go because we love that project so much, that character, and we're attached to it. And it's what is your advice for actors? And I know you briefly talked about this, for having that attachment to these jobs and self-tapes that we've submitted to, that we spend time with. It's with every character, they become our friend or a person that we know. And so for us, even for 2 days or a day, however your deadline may be, it's oh, now I got to put this down. Okay, up to the next one. And it's how do we, and what is your advice for actors who are maybe struggling with letting go? And what could they possibly do to maintain or have a healthy mindset around that?
I think you said it in your question. I think you said, okay, time for the next one. There will always be a next one. You know what I mean? Even again, if you are a famous actor, you're on set for, 20 days or 3 months or, 6 months, a year, right? There will be a next one. regardless if it's a next film, a commercial, a TV show, there will be another audition, right? And I understand, like, my boyfriend's an actor, some of my best friends are actors, some of them are dancers, like, I get it. And again, this is where the empathy comes from. I get it when it's like, to be on this tour would be crazy. Like, like you get these things and you're like, this would be amazing. But realizing, again, there is a next one, there is another day, there is a next opportunity, and realizing that what I have been leaning to a lot, rejection is God's protection. There is a reason why that wasn't for you, and again, the genes fit on someone else. There have been, and again, I think casting directors just realize that, like, we are in a similar boat than that you all are in. The independent casting directors, we're up against, some of our best friends, it'll be like, what'd you do today? Oh, I had a meeting with so-and-so. Oh, I had a meeting with so-and-so too. And it's like, oh, you're up against with the same job. And sometimes it goes your way and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't go your way, then it was meant for them. It wasn't meant for you, it was meant for them. And also something that I have now realized in a lot of this time in reflection, oftentimes the things that you don't get, when you do get something, it's twofold, at least, from what you did give. It's like, oh, well, I put in all this time, I put in all this energy, I really, really wanted it. But then let's talk about the thing that you just got. Whoa, like you went it, you were talking about this co-star, but you just got offered a guest star. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you went out for, maybe this regional production, and maybe you didn't get it, and the next day you get a appointment for a Broadway production of the same thing that you didn't even know about. So then you get a second time on it. And that's the beauty thing about theater, like, especially the plays that have been around for a long time. Sure, you might not get the regional production, but hey, there might be an off-Broadway production that might be coming. There might be a Broadway production that might be coming of the same thing. So just I totally get it. I totally get it, especially those things where it's like this thing. Like, for me, if this girl's from DC, like, grew up in the early 2000s, grew up dancing, this was me, and then it doesn't go your way, and you're like, what? This is me. What? For some reason, it didn't go your way. It just didn't. It just didn't. But guess what? You'll wake up the next day, and you'll probably get a call about something else. Or if it doesn't happen that next day, it might happen in the next week. It doesn't happen that week, so it'll happen in the next week. So just like, that's that long game that Janelle and I were talking about. It's that long game that you have to look. And listen, I am someone who, I understand people who leave this business, and I respect it. And I respect people who stay for this business. It's a hard business. Who wants to hear no all the time? It's rough. I get it. Like, who wants to be in that? But it's because you love it, right? It's because you love it. And this is something that you can only see yourself doing, right? And so again, that takes it's something that my friend Maya and I talk about. It's a lot of quiet work. It's a lot of work by yourself. It's a lot of reflection time. A lot of if we're gonna get woo woo, it's a lot of meditation. Whatever that might be for you. I'm not gonna get all there, but like, whatever that might be, working out. Whatever your physical preparation is, drinking a lot of water. It's all important. But at the end of the day, you could get it, and you're on set for 3 months, and it's gone. You're done. I was on another podcast, and the host said something that I never thought about. He was like, "We are in a business of ending." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Everything we have ends." He was like, "If you're a doctor, you're going to keep doing the doctor thing constantly over and over again until you decide to retire. But we are in a business of ending. You are on a set for a day. You're on set for 3 months. I'm on a project for a day. If it's a commercial, I'm on a project for 12 weeks. If it's a series, I'm on a project for 2 years. If it's a Broadway show, but it ends. The show ends. SVU has been on for 25 years. After Grey's Anatomy has been on for 20, 22, whatever it may be. There's going to be a time where that show ends. There's going to be a time where things end, and that's the business we're in. We're in the business that ends. So I think, just thinking about the next thing, staying present, definitely stay present, always stay present, learn from the past, look to the future, but stay in the present. But just realizing that thing that you held on to so tightly, that was perfect for you. I'm not saying that it wasn't, that didn't go your way. it was meant to be that was meant to be for somebody else's. Your time will come. What did I read? It was like the wins, WIN. Sometimes we have to think of the WHEN. It's not, like that whole thought process. I'm saying it wrong, but the timing, right? It's not how, but when. It's not if, but when. Your time will come, and might not be in the package that you think about, might not be in the time that you think about, but it's going to come. I went into school thinking I was going to be a director, not to say that that's not going to happen, and I came out of school being a casting director. So you never know what package is going to happen. You never know when it's going to happen, but that when will happen. So just have fun. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but just have fun. Tomorrow is not promised. We're all on borrowed time. And so as much as you can lean in the fun and the joy and the pleasure, at least you're going to have fun doing it. At least you're going to entertain yourself while doing it. But yeah, I know it's hard, but just look at the next. That will come.
I think that's incredible for all of us to maintain and keep in the forefront of our minds is finding a joy. Think of the next, but also being present. And we could talk about the woo-woo all day, girl, because let me tell you.
Because we're all about it.
The meditation, the breath work, I've cried.
Hello.
I cry every week.
Hello.
Oh my God. So like body shaking and all of that. And I love it. I think it's so invigorating. And it also helps me talking about the tools, like, as an actor, we have to be so fluid with our body and our tools, right? Mm-hmm. As actors, we have to be able to be vulnerable in the private, but publicly. Mm-hmm. And that's when it's, again, important to, how are you filling your cup? Like, are you meditating? Are you doing the things that, Erica has spoken to? And what does that look like for you? Like, discovering that, and then how do you tap into your community as well? And I'm thankful for like Janelle and my community. And you have people who are not as casting directors, but elsewhere. And they also feed your cup and they also help you. And they help me. But I wanted to talk about, and kind of like circling back now, I think you talked about not only being an actor, but the business side of acting. Like, they don't teach you that in school. And it's mind blowing, because they'll teach you just how to be an actor, how to show up, how to do a self tape, all these things. And they teach you the basics, your headshots, your resume, your marketing materials, workshops and things like that. And how to maybe go into an agent or manager's room and pitch yourself and go, sign me as a client. But what is the process for those that may not know, that haven't gotten to that point yet? And it'd be helpful to know when they do. What are the different stages throughout the casting process? Because like you said, casting is the first part of it. It's just the initial, right? But you have network producers, director sessions, chemistry reads, all these things. How can you speak to just the different stages or different levels of the casting process, so that our audience can be aware of that and not be so surprised when they walk into these rooms or virtual rooms at this point now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I usually say there's more than one way to skin a cat, and the poor cat, it's just like, each process is different. I'll talk in the lens of TV, just because I feel like that's easier for me to talk about, and it's not linear, but it's more linear, I think, just because that's my foundation. So, first thing first is the script. We get the script, we read it. We've been hired, so we have this thing called concept call, where we get on the phone with the writers, the showrunner, the producers, the director, if they've already been hired. And I'm talking through the lens of a pilot, right? So you get the pilot, the first thing about the first show of this series. And you get the pilot, and you're talking to everybody, and you go through the script. And the first thing you talk about are the leads, right? So you go down, if the lead of the show isn't attached, if we're going to go through casting, if we're going to offer some people, who are we thinking about, blah, blah, blah. And we go down the list of series regulars, right? And most of the time you're going to start with your lead, your number one on that call sheet, because they decide the world, right? Like, if there is a love interest, if they have kids, if they have a mom, like their best friend, all of that is kind of anchored on that number one. So you do a lot, if that number one is not already attached, you do a lot of that, just talking about that number one. And then you go down the list. So you work on your series regulars. You might have, 6 weeks to kind of cast a pilot, 6 weeks, maybe a little bit more, but usually 6 to 8 weeks to cast that pilot. And I do mean that whole pilot from number one to that one liner. You get 6 to 8 weeks to do that. And so that's where you start. You usually start with your series regulars. You talk to your showrunners and things like that. You craft the breakdowns that you were talking about. You cut your sides. If you put out offers for, your two leads, you put those out, see how those go, do that game. But then you start seeing people, right? So you put out your breakdown, you start to get submissions, you go through your submissions, you talk to your agents and managers, you go to your old lists that you made. It's like, well, maybe this character is similar to this character, or maybe there's something about this character that's like this character that I worked on a couple of months ago. So you start making your list, you go through your submissions, you get thousands, especially with those big roles, you get thousands upon thousands of submissions. You go through all of those thousands. We look through every single submission that comes through our way, go through all the submissions, you make your selects. Back in the day, then that's when it comes to you guys. We put out the appointments, via your reps or you personally. And then that's when you guys get to work. Right. And so you guys prepare. And then back in the day, you would come in. But now maybe you submit your self-tape. We go through every single self-tape. We watch every single self-tape. Every single self-tape we watch. Hello? We watch every single self-tape. I don't know where that rumor came from. But if I answer one more question of, do you watch every single self-tape? I think my head's going to combust. We watch every single self-tape. But anyway, so we watch every single self-tape that comes through. It's so fun to watch yourself tape. That's why we do this. We are so excited to see your tapes. We're so excited to see you guys come in. So we watch your self tapes. We send our first batch of selects, right? So again, that's why I say everything is a victory, because we start here. I'm trying to see where my frame is. We start here, and every step along the way, we're getting smaller. So if we get 1,000 submissions for, the role of Alex, the series regulars, brother, we get 1,000 submissions. We're not bringing 1,000. We might bring in 100 just for a round number, right? So that is a huge jump. We bring in 100. We watch 100 self-tapes. From that 100, we're not going to send them 100 self-tapes. We might send them altogether 30, right? So that's a big chunk, right? From the 30, they might pick 10 for a producer session. We bring in 10, right? I'm just using round numbers. And so then from that 10, they're like, let's have 5 tests. Right? So test is like the big callback, right? And there are 2 rounds of tests. There's the studios test, and then there's the network test, right? So the studio is, and also I'm talking of the lens of network television. I should have prefaced that. So let's say we're working on an ABC pilot. Right. So let's say they want to bring 5 to studio, and it's the ABC studios for ABC network, just to keep it easy. ABC studios. So that's the piece that makes the show. Right? So we bring 5 people, right? Back in the day, we would fly them in or whatever. Sometimes we just use your tape. Maybe they have notes from your original tape that they want you to retape. Maybe it's a chemistry test, maybe whatever it may be, right? So that's the studio test. So there's 5. And then from that 5, they send 3 to network, right? And so that's the big test, right? So the network is the one that airs the show, right? So the president of the network is the one that usually has the final say, right? So if it's, John Smith, the producer, John Smith doesn't have the final say. Whoever the president of that network is, they have the final say for those leads. And so that 3 turns into 1. So that is the whole process of that series regular. Once we get the series regulars, or maybe if we're losing time, then we start with our recurs. If this is the boyfriend of the daughter, right? They're not necessarily going to be a series regular, but they're going to come in and out of the series, right? So you start with them, and then you start with your guest stars, right? And then you start with your co-stars. So it's a downward thing. And again, for a pilot, you have anywhere from 6 to maybe 8 weeks to do this basketball game. But it's fun. It's fun.
Wow, that's a process. I'm glad, it can vary obviously with film and TV and networks, because but thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people, we're not taught that when we're acting. We're not in our classes. And so that's really helpful for us to know. And also, what is your advice as far as actors who are at a producer session or a studio session? Because the nerves can even pop up even more, because you feel like you're the 3. Yeah. You're part of the 3, and that's it. Just one, that's it. And so what is your advice for actors when they're in that phase? Because obviously they picked you for a reason. You're there.
That's it. I think it's crazy, right? Like I can't, I've never been in that situation, right? So I think it's leaning into that breath work that we were talking about, using that box breath, if you know what that is. 4, hold for 4, 4, hold for 4, 4, hold for 4. Like maybe learning different breathing techniques. Because, and just relying on the fact, I think I get a lot of questions also, like, if I get a call back, do I do completely different, or do I do this or do that? They loved you from the beginning. They loved you from the beginning. Just always remember that. They loved you from the beginning. And not even like, we're talking about love here. Like we're not talking about like second grade. Oh my God, I like you too. No, we're talking about love. We're talking about like, someone's gonna be walking down the aisle tomorrow. You know what I'm talking about? Like, we are in it. So if you are one of the 3, if you're one of the 5, honestly, if you are one of the 10, like you have, again, the number again, where's my frame? Here. Like, we are playing this weird hopscotch game, they loved you from the beginning. And they, pick me, love me, choose me. They did, and so, nerves are going to be nerves, but how do you, again, this interview I watched with Wendell Pierce, how can you use your nerves, your anxiety in your situation? It's human. You can't turn it off. You can't just be like, okay, nerves, go away. You're going to be nervous. Like, if you're not nervous, you might not be human, so like just using those nerves to your advantage, talk, maybe like have a little conversation, not the whole time, but like, hey guys, how's it going? Just to release the kinetics that are happening in your body, just, hey, how's it going? Yeah, that great water outside, like whatever. You don't have to be funny, but like, again, just talk. And something else that I also say when people are like, hey, how are you? There's so many times where it's like, huh? What? Just like be open to like little chit chat, small talk. I think that can ease the nerves, but don't reinvent the wheel, regardless if you're going in for a callback or for these big studio sessions. Again, I get a lot of questions of like, should I change this? Should I change that? Unless they give you a specific note, again, they loved you. They loved what you did. They loved what you did. You're not going to recreate it. I'm not saying that exactly what you did, but you don't have to go back into your files and be like, okay, so I did this there. So that means I'm going to do this. Blah, blah, blah. Just rely on yourself. And I know that's like so stupid for me to say, because what in the blank does that mean? But you are enough because you came through and they saw something in you out of thousands of people, out of just this little submission that we get, a little thumbnail of your headshot and resume. There was something there that we saw, or if I knew you before, there's something that I saw before that made me think that, oh my God, this person is going to kill it. And all you need is another person along the way to think that same thing. Yeah. But you are the first person to think that. You have to be the first person to think that. You have to be the person like Amanda in her mirror being like, I got this. I'm going to get this. Let go. Like, you got to be that person. If you are not that person, it's the dominoes are going to come falling down, So again, it's just adding more people to believe what you believe from day one. Don't reinvent the wheel. Breathe, put those shoulders down, chest up, and do the thing, do the scene. Easier said than done. That's why I'm not doing it. That's why y'all doing it. That's why y'all listening here. But just do, you've done enough already. This is just literally the cherry on top of the cake that you've been making for years, maybe decades. So now it's time to shine, and now it's time for them to just be entertained and be welcomed to your party.
That's incredible. Yes,
Woo!
Celebrate yourself.
Yes.
We're all about celebrating yourself and celebrating the wins. I think we get so caught up in like, it has to be a specific way. We have to get the booking. But like you've said throughout this whole process and this whole interview is that getting that audition is a win. That is a major win. Getting that call back is a win because casting knows you. They're not forgetting you. That means, and so I just love that. And I'll just wrap up with a couple of quick questions about slate. Do you think it's useful for actors to have their slate in their actors access profile, like a quick slate? Hi, I'm Amanda Dubois.
I'm a fan of it. Again, this whole business, I should have probably said it from the jump, is based on opinion, right? This is probably the most subjective nothing's objective, right? So like you can have 6 casting directors on this Zoom. Some casting directors are going to be like, I like this headshot. Other casting be like, no, I don't like that headshot. Some people are like, I love that reel. Like, no, I want clips. I'm talking about Erica Hart here. I'm a fan of the slate shot just because I can hear your voice, and I can see what it looks like when the airbrush and the photo and the thing and I can see what it looks like, right? And those might be a little bit more up to date than your headshot is. And again, it's a little bit more of your personality. So I'm a huge fan. You don't have to. I'm not saying like, oh my God, they don't got a slate shot next. Like, no. But I'm not mad at them.
Awesome. What about props?
I love a good prop. There are other casting directors that do not, so I think that's where your power and your agency comes through. If you're going to use the prop though, the scene is not about the prop. The scene is about you. So how can I use it? Right. So like with food, unless it's specifically about you eating food, give me 2 bites at the top and call it a day. Like nobody needs to see anybody chewing. Right. Like I don't understand what this is. If you're on a phone, use your phone.
Yeah.
I personally don't necessarily like, but again, I don't really care, is miming.
Oh yeah.
That's just me, like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that's where you put your agency in it. But I do know casting directors who are like, no, don't use the prop. You'll get that on set, or it distracts them. For me, again, I don't know what this is. So yeah, I'm a fan of props.
Awesome. I just had a whole deja vu moment. Sorry. I was like, what? Okay. Literally what you said, I heard before. And you say it to me. How about eyelines? How do you feel about having, because if the scene calls for 3 people, do you just keep 1 or 2, or do you do the 3?
The 3 kind of like, if it's like, okay, here's Sally, here's Jim, here's Tim, here's Joyce, right? Like that gets scary for me. I know people who have mastered that. My thing is if you're talking to Joyce for most of the scene and then Sally comes in, hey, Sally, let me talk to Sally. And then we're going back to Joyce. Oh, and then Tim comes in. Boom. So I'm totally fine with using 2. I think that would be great. But if you're like, hey, I'm getting whiplash, we only going to talk here, that's totally fine. The only thing is we're going to strike camera unless it specifically says. So again, like if you're like, okay, Janelle's my reader, I'm just going to move my Zoom and there's Janelle and I'm talking to Janelle right here. So it's just mastering that a little bit. You don't want to be too far from camera because then you just get profile, but at the same time, you don't want to be too close to camera. So I'm not even looking at camera, but it might look like I'm looking into camera. You kind of just want to like see where that eye line is. So again, I can see both eyes. Yeah. And then when someone comes into the room realizing, okay, what's equidistant is over here. So like I'm looking at the Zoom icon on my toolbar, and then I'm over here looking at the help situation on my toolbar. So those are kind of like equidistant.
Yeah. So the name of the game is prep before,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, if you are someone who can, get everybody in the scene and remember who those people are, then chef's kiss, good for you.
Yeah. Great. And what about being off book? Like how important is it for an actor to be off book or holding the sides? Is it distracting?
Yeah, I think again, it's whatever's best for you. I think it helps you to be off book because that's one less thing you can have to think about. I think preparation is something that I talk about a lot. I think if it's 2 lines, you should know those 2 lines. You should know those 2 lines. You get more than one way to skin a cat. So if you're someone who only remembers your lines, but maybe not the other person's lines, and that works for you, then that works for you. If you're someone who maybe just needs to read it over and you'll feel for it, that's for you. If you're someone who needs to remember the whole thing front to back and that works for you, that works for you. It's whatever works for you, but know the thing. You know what I mean? If you're going into a procedural, and this is probably not a short answer, I'll try to shorten as much as I can. If you're going in for Law and Order SVU and you ask the casting director from Jonathan Strauss' office, so who's Detective Benson? Whoa. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that ain't good. If you're going in for Blue Bloods and if you're asking Kim and Josie, so how do you pronounce it? Is it Regan or Reagan? Whoa. You know what I mean? Like these shows have been on since the beginning of time. Take 5 seconds to watch these shows. You're doing yourself a disservice, right? And so I think preparation is very, very important. A lot of people see the word preparation and they just think off book, but there's so many things that you have to think about. what network are you going in for, what casting director you're going in for, what showrunner are you going in for, what producer are you going in for. All of that is a part of your preparation and will answer the questions that you might have. Going in for an ABC procedural might be different than going in for an NBC procedural, which is different than going in for an FX show, which is different than going in for a Netflix, which is blah, 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 blah. You know, so like just knowing the players, knowing that breakdown that we were talking about, and doing 5 minutes of research on everybody on that breakdown is going to help you immensely. I think if you're going in for a producer session, if you're going in for definitely if you're going in for a test, I wouldn't necessarily hold the sides. Thing to think about. But if you're going in just for a casting situation, or even maybe, well, I don't know. But if you're going in for just like the casting round one, bring your sides. I understand, like, you have it, you're down pack, boom, boom, boom. Especially if you've not met this casting director before, or especially like if you've not met this team before on the producer session, bring in your sides, because you might just need it. You know, I'm not saying to be completely in the situation, because then we lose your eyes and then, you know, whatever. But maybe just have them on your lap. You know, we're vibing. I'm reading with Amanda, boom, 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 and I look down and I'm good. I'm back. You know, because it's very uncomfortable, right? You're walking to a room of people you've never met before. They're all behind a table. You think they're judging you. You got a camera in your face, maybe some lights, a reader who you just met 15 seconds ago in the scene. You're supposed to be married and now about to divorce after 15 years. Who's like, here's a mic. Like, it's awkward. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. And guess what? Everyone goes okay. Right? So like sometimes we just need a reminder. I remember when I was working at ABC and we were doing a lot of pilots and, you know, the series regulars, all these people, we would have like 12-page scenes and people would come in without their sides. And I'd be like, here we go. Watch it, watch it, watch it. They'd come in, they'd be like, oh crap, I gotta go quick. Can I get my sides? Like, yes, go get your sides. John Wayne walking into a saloon. Like, yes.
Oh.
You know? So always like, even if they're like outside, you know? But yeah, always have them. I think the only caveat would be, though, like we were saying, the 5 to the 3, you know, I would maybe leave them here. But again, the pros of self-tapes is like, hey, I got my PDF preview right here. I'm reading, you know, and some people have mastered the art and you don't even know. You don't even know.
That's incredible. What is the best way to, because, you know, the actors, I think, again, I hope we, throughout this interview, have demystified a lot of the conceptions, as the noise passes by, about the relationship between casting directors and actors, that you are rooting for us, you are in our corner, you are supporting us, and we are seen by you, and we should remember that with everything that we're doing. And so thank you for sharing that, because I think I've heard so many stories like, I'm scared of casting. I don't, you know, it's so scary that they're judging me. It's, you know, it's like going on a blind date and at the first 15 seconds, you know, and like, they know what you're coming in for, you know, have that moment again. And, you know, it is your room. So thank you for sharing that. And as actors, how do we keep in contact with you or any other casting directors? What is your suggestion that is not like a nuisance or knocking on your door and going, hey, actor, desperate for a job, hire me?
Yeah. No, again, a lot of people have different ways that they like to be contacted. Follow me on Instagram at elove67. You know, that's where I am for more than the time than I should be, to be quite honest. So that's that. You know, casting directors, most of them have Instagrams, or their office have Instagram. So definitely be on the lookout for that. That comes into that preparation I was talking about, the research that I was talking about. But I think if you're reaching out to a casting director, an associate casting director, you know, a producer, a director, really figure out why you are contacting them. I get a lot of DMs, I get a lot of emails, which is great, but I get a lot of them saying like, hey, I'm a New York actor. Cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's great. How can I help you? You know, hey, Erica, I see that you're casting X, Y, and Z. I think I would be great because, keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it succinct. Please find my materials. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Right? So like, again, it shows who you are, why you're contacting me, and your materials, right? Hey, Erica, I heard you on so-and-so's podcast. I think, you know, I resonated or whatever. Here are my situations, you know, here are my materials. I think, again, it creates a connection. I get a lot of blind copied, CC'd emails, totally fine. But, you get a little bit more with honey than you do with anything else. So how do you personalize it? Maybe I'm not casting something at the moment, but you see, hey, Erica, I see that you cast a lot of comedy. I'm a stand-up comedian in New York. I think I would be great for anything that you are casting. Here are my materials. Look forward to hearing from you soon. Again, it shows just a little bit of work, a little bit of just personal, just something that's personal. If you see that I'm casting something very specific, if I'm casting, someone who has to speak Farsi, who's a black belt in jujitsu and who can do a killer time step, hey, Erica, don't know if you know this about me, but I can speak Farsi. I have a black belt in jujitsu and I'm a tap dancer for the past 5 years. Guess what? Thank God, because I'm looking for a unicorn and you are. So yeah, definitely keep in touch. But I think another thing to think about, because I don't know necessarily if it's the time or, just what it is, but just realize that we're humans. Everybody's a human being and everybody deserves grace. Well, maybe not everyone deserves grace, but most of us deserve grace. Well, no, everyone deserves grace from time to time. And just realize that, like, we might be working on something or we might not be working on something, and maybe our bandwidth can't take this email. And so I got an email actually recently for someone who was reaching out about a project that I wasn't working on, that was fully cast like 3 years ago. And I hadn't responded to the email, and they were like, hey, just checking in if you got my push, would love to be considered for blah, 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 blah. Just realize that we all got your email. We saw it, and if only 2 days have passed, like, you know what I mean? So like me, I read every single email. I try to respond to every single email because I know what it feels like to send out an email to the void and never get a response. But just realize that we're human too. We're not answering machines. Most of us are working. And sometimes the emails that come to the top that we have to answer first are the ones that we have to answer first. We all have folders in our Gmails, actors to consider, actors to think of down the road, or like sometimes that response might come in the form of an audition, not a response via email. So just realize that we are seeing it, we are reading it, just sometimes that we can't answer within 2 days, maybe even 2 weeks, if it's not 100% pressing. But definitely send those emails, shoot your shot. You have to be the person to put yourself out there. The worst that something can happen is that they don't respond to you, or they say, actually you're not right for this, but maybe something down the line, but you have to put yourself out there, even if you're repped. I'm very much, some agents and managers might roll their eyes at me or be like, Erica, don't tell them that. But like, it's your career, and so listen to Amanda and Janelle's podcast, going to panels, putting yourself out there, going to networking events, going to mixers, meeting people. Yeah, I would rather bring you in because I know you and because, that versus like a recommendation from your rep, because I know you do good work. It's like, oh, yeah, definitely. Got it. Yep. Don't even need to push, like little things like that go a long way. And that's why I'm talking about the personal connection, not just like, hey, I see you're a casting director. Here's my stuff. It's just like, let's work on this. Let's work together, because that's what this is. This is a collaboration. How are we going to work together? So I think, little things go a long way.
She's also human, everybody. I just hope everyone, we're all human. We,
we breathe, we go to sleep, and if we're lucky, we wake up to do it again the next day.
Exactly. We say, we all will die eventually. And I know it's kind of morbid to say, but it is the truth. And what are you going to do?
I say that all the time.
Like, what are we going to do in the time in between? Are you going to be on your deathbed and go, I could have, I should have, but
I mean, can if I may, I usually like to tell a story. So when I was 21, 22, I graduated from college and I was looking for a job, and I already interned at NBC for a year, and I did all this casting while I was in college. And one of my best friends, Joe, was at my apartment, and we were looking for jobs together because we just graduated and we were very unemployed. And he found a job on NYU's casting, that ain't right, job website, and it was a paid internship at ABC Casting. But in big bold, first of all, paid internship never happened. Who is a paid internship, and it was full time, and it was in casting, and it was at a major network. But in big bold letters, it said must be a full-time student, and I just graduated. And so Joe was like, Erica, you have to apply for this, and I was a little different 11 years ago than I am now. And I was like, no, I can't apply to this. Like it says, big bold letters. He was like, Erica, just apply. And I was like, no, we went back and forth. Long story short, I did apply. I was nervous as hell because I was like, but I broke a rule. Like, what am I doing? But then a couple days later, I get a call from this guy named Vince. And Vince was like, hey, so I see that you applied for this job, but I also see that you graduated. And I just started apologizing. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He was like, no, hold on one second. He puts me on the phone with John Ort, who at that time was the manager at ADC.
Yep.
And so, Erica, I see that you graduated. And I said, I'm sorry. And he was like, but you can't be an intern. I was like, I'm so sorry, but do you want to be an assistant?
Got chilled.
And so why I tell this story to casting professionals, actors, whomever, is you never know what's on the other side. There was no position listed for an assistant. They were going to hire someone that they knew, but they brought me in for an interview and I was the one that got the job. So you have to be the one to say yes. And Joe was my yes. Joe was the one to push me to say, like, you should apply. You literally qualify except for this one little thing called you graduated, right? So, like, if you're like, well, maybe I'm overqualified, maybe I'm underqualified, maybe I'm not qualified, whatever it may be, you never know what's on the other side. You never know what's not being posted. You never know what thing might be yours. But all you do know is that if you don't apply, if you do not submit, then you will not be given that opportunity. You will not be considered. So I always tell that story to just be like, listen, I didn't want to do it, but I was pushed to do it. And now I'm here today. And I didn't even know that there was a position open that I was qualified for. So you have to be the one to say yes. You have to be the one to take that power in that agency and do the thing, reaching out to the casting director, reaching out to the director, reaching out to Amanda and Janelle, whomever you are reaching out to. Just reach out, because the worst that can happen is you don't get that opportunity, but another opportunity is down that road.
That's awesome. I do have a final question, and then I'm going to leave it with Janelle. Actually, two things. Current song you're listening to, because I know you're listening to songs. I saw the post on Instagram. I know the story you were talking about, all these amazing songs. So one song that you can't let go of right now that's like running in your head, and your favorite sneakers, because I know you're into sneakers. So this is how you relate to people, guys. Just remember, human.
Favorite song I'm listening to right now. I'm listening to a lot of Stevie, and I posted the question of like, what's the perfect song? Like if perfect doesn't exist, but if there's a song to come close to perfection, and mine is As by Stevie Wonder. So I've been like listening to a lot of Stevie. I've been listening to a lot of Michael. I've been listening just to a lot of like songs of the past, because I think that's a long time, but I feel like we've reverted into a new situation. But there's nothing like those timeless songs like Ella Fitzgerald's, like just timeless pieces that people are still covering today, Frank Sinatra, like all these things. So listening to a lot of that. And sneakers, I'm really not a sneakerhead. I just have two cool pairs of sneakers.
Oh, okay. So then, what are the cool pairs? Tell me the color.
So I'll show you real quick. So there's these.
I mean, yes. Love those.
And I think they're like made from like recycled materials.
Yes. I'm all about it.
And then these are real cool. So my dad got me these. So as you can see, they look white. However, the moment you step outside in the sun, this part is purple.
Oh.
Those are like real killer. Those are real killer. So yeah, I'm a Nike girl. I have very narrow feet. And Nikes were the only shoes that fit me. Like Reeboks were too wide, Adidas were too wide, and Nikes are the only ones that really fit me. So I wear a lot of Nikes. But I'm really not a sneakerhead. I just literally have maybe three really cool pairs of sneakers.
Okay, cool.
My brother is the sneakerhead. He has every single pair of Jordans since the beginning of time. Like, I'm not even being facetious. Like, he's the sneakerhead. But yeah, I just have these two pairs of sneakers that everybody's like, oh my God, you're a sneakerhead. I'm like, not really. I still rock clothes from middle school.
I wish. Actually, no, I don't, because middle school was horrible for me. I was the awkward girl who was only allowed. I know.
All of school.
But it's
all of school.
I mean, I was only allowed 2 pairs of shoes in middle school once a year, and that was it. A pair of Uptowns and my Timbs. That's it, because I had to go for summer, spring, and fall, and then winter. the Tims. That's it.
But you're a New York girl with the butters, so
yeah, exactly.
I was in Western Pennsylvania playing the clarinet and Irish dancing and on a competitive book reading team. So I was not popular.
She's a badass, by the way. She used to do roller derby, so she's a badass. Like,
I do, yeah. And I have a motorcycle now. I'm doing the things. Catching up.
You're talking about competitive reading and like Irish step dancing, which both are cool. Now you're talking about you ride a motorcycle and you're in the rink, like pushing girls to the side.
Yes,
like
hip check.
Okay, badass times 50.
Yeah, thank you. I brought Amanda roller skating for my birthday, and she broke it's fine. We had a great time. We love roller skating.
I fell on my phone, cracked it, by the way, had to get a whole new phone. But I fell on my phone, wrist like this, and I had to wear a brace for like a week. Like,
but hey,
whiskey.
How you got a story?
I do. It was great. I love it.
You're welcome.
Better than ever.
Got a story? You got a story that you didn't have before.
Exactly. Oh living life, and not just existing, but living. A part of your story that you can tell as an actor and as a being. So, I thank you. Now, I know you want to finish.
Amanda and we did a lot though. We went hiking with goats, and she came surfing with me, and yeah, we're out there doing the thing. Yes, but
okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, just come,
I'll climb the mountain. Like, it's good. We're living life.
Living life.
Yeah. And if you guys ever want to go swing dancing, Swing 46, I went. Yeah, Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra live band. They were playing the whole thing, and I was just laughing the whole time. Just like swim. Yes. Okay. Last question. We'll wrap up. We are so happy that you've done this. We've learned so much. Okay. Out of all that we've talked about, so we've talked about a lot of things. Do you have anything else to say? Like just a couple sentences that you really wish people knew or you want them to know so they can just keep going. It could be actors, it could be anybody, because Mindset Artistry is about anyone that like had an idea, desire to do something, and then they're making it happen. Which is, so anything you have to, final words.
I call it I think this is definitely for actors, but I think this is for anybody. I call it the Wizard of Oz rule. You had it within you the whole time, and I think we forget about that. We forget about who we are. We forget about what we bring, because I think a lot of people see, and I was talking about this with my coach today. We think about a lot about, we're bragging, or, we're being boastful, or we're being prideful, or we are, selfish, or we're X, Y, and Z, whatever that X, Y, and Z may be. But like, it's celebratory. You're celebrating yourself. You are putting yourself out there. You are leaning into yourself. And a lot of times when you do healing work and you lean into whatever, there might be some things that have to be left along the way. And that's the scary part, right? It's like if you're in fitness, yeah, sure, you might be able to bench press just that bar, but then you got to add that weight because you've graduated, and then you add more weight and you add more weight. Same thing goes for here. But at the end of the day, you have to lean into yourself, lean into what feels good, lean into your curiosity. But you had it within you the whole time. So it's only a matter of time before the world sees that, and that the world is privileged to see that. It's a privilege to see that. It's a privilege as a casting director to see actors come in and do their thing every single time they submit a self-tape, every single time they come to an EPA, every single time they come to a callback. It's a privilege and an honor to constantly see that. So just realize that we are privileged to see your artistry. We are privileged to see your work. But at the end of the day, it is your work that you are bringing to the table. So lean into that.
Well, that was amazing. You have been a privilege to us for joining our podcast and joining us. We hope to have you again, because I definitely want to dive in more to, like, I know you do comedy casting and theater work. I want to congratulate you for all your accolades thus far in this industry, because I know you have not only done commercials and like being a casting director, but you tapped into theater. And I saw an interview with you that you did. Is it Chicken and Waffles? Am I correct to say that? Was it
Chicken and Biscuits?
Chicken and Biscuits.
But you're close. You're close.
The waffles is great.
That's what it is. I want chicken and waffles. Yeah. But I just want to thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that people leave this podcast episode with a sliver of hope, joy, and to realize that it is reachable. and that who you are matters no matter what you're doing, and maintain that. Tap into that. Do everything that you need to do, like you said earlier, to fill your cup. Show up and show out. Be bold and, live rightly. Like I say. And so I want to thank you. Any last words, Nelly? Sorry, I call her Nelly, but yes, Janelle.
Yeah. Just Amanda and my boyfriend's daughters are the best nicknames for me. Nelly and Jelly. Yeah.
Hey, I was Jelly. I was back in the day Jelly because I had a lot of peanut butter and jelly, and I had always had jelly on my face. So my family members would call me Jelly.
That is so cute.
That's so cute.
My jelly sandwich. Yeah.
We gotta eat.
Hungry.
We have got to go.
Thank you.
But Erica, thank you. We appreciate you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. And
appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see you again when the world comes back to its new normal.
Hello.
Right?
Hello.
Keep strong, everybody.
Keep strong.
Love y'all.
Drink some water.
What are your thoughts about this episode?
Drop it in the comments and let us know what you want to dive into next.
Subscribe, like, share, and click the link below to book a free consultation. And
we'll see you next time.